What's up everybody? You're watching the From WordPress to Statamic YouTube channel. My name is Michael. Today I want to talk about enhancing our forms with some JavaScript. So let's just dive right in. If you remember from last time, we set up a basic form with a couple fields and we're outputting it with our form tag pair, as you can see over here. We're checking for some success or errors and then outputting that on the template. Now we're doing this the traditional way where you get a full page refresh and that comes with all the form request data and errors and all that stuff, and you can handle right here in the template as we're doing with Antlers. Now, one of the enhancements we can make is obviously Ajax. Then we don't need to have the full page refresh and we can deal with everything with JavaScript without having to refresh the page at all. So let's dive right in. So what do we want to do first? First of all, we need to do a little bit with this form tag. So I'm going to just add in a couple things. I want to add some attributes. So if we just look over here and see what it gives us, right? This form right now has the post method and the action. We're going to use Alpine JS to manage this. So we're going to add a couple of attributes here so that it works properly. First, we're going to add an attribute to give this a ref for Alpine hook into. Attribute is xref, and we'll just call it form. The next thing we want to do is prevent the default submission. So we'll add an attribute for that to call a method instead. So we'll say attribute at submit.prevent, and we'll call that submit form. Okay, before we start making changes to our markup here, let's go take a look at the JavaScript that I've got cooked up. Now over here in my contact form.js, I have an Alpine component with some boilerplate stuff that I'm not going to type out because it'll take too long. Eventually this code will end up on my blog, so you can find it there, or make sure to hit pause, and then you can copy it down. Okay, so in an Alpine component, there's always an init method which will fire as soon as the component is mounted. And the first thing that we're doing is we're grabbing the ref, and from that we are looking for the underscore token, which if you look over here inside the form markup, comes from our Statamic tag pairs for the form. And this is the CSRF token, which is basically for security purposes to make sure things are nice and tidy and we're not doing anything nefarious. Otherwise, we have some variables for our data, which we're going to wire up in just a second. And then we have our submit form async method, which is going to call a fetch. And inside there, we are grabbing the event.target.action, which correlates to here. The event.target is the form, and this is the endpoint that this form is posting to. And then we're just handling some responses or some errors, and that'll send that back to the template. Now, why don't make use of xmodel so that it's wired up for us? We don't have to do any sort of listening. It's one of the magic things about Alpine. So I can say, go over here and say xmodel equals form data.name. Let's try that. And over here, form data.email. And down here, form data.message. Okay, now that I have the X models in place, let's just start typing. Let's just try the submit and see what happens. And right now, nothing's happening because we haven't done anything except to know that, hey, we've got a list of errors. Now we've got X model in here, so let's see if it's connected. So if I was to write my name in there, Michael. Okay, now the next one, we're down to 2, so that's great. Now let's go back to our template and replace some of this Antler stuff with data from Alpine. And I'll make sure to remove that one too. And I'm going to use a template. And I will say x if errors.length. So now if we have an array that has stuff in it, show the errors. Okay, so I'll hit submit. And I now have errors. Great. Now I can do stuff with this array. So why don't we just replace this with a UL and then another template to handle the list items. Template. We'll say x4 error in errors. Let's do a li and maybe do x text will be equivalent to error. Yeah, just throw little styles on here just to make it a little nicer. give it a list. Disk list. Inside, maybe some margin bottom. Okay, so let's try this out. Hit submit. There we go. Now I've got a list of all the errors right above there. And if I was to, put my name in and then hit submit again, now I'm down to 2. So my form is responsive to my inputs and it's handling all of the error messages and validation for me. I don't have to write any PHP or backend code to do this. All I have to do is handle the data, whether it's errors or success that Statamic gives me from the backend onto the front end here. Now we could do a lot more with this if I wanted to drill down and, make each input responsive on, as I'm typing to show whether or not it's in an error state. You could go crazy and do that, but for now, this is all we really need to make sure that it works. So let's go with test. Let's try that one and submit. There we go. Now we're down to message. This is the message, and I'll hit submit. Okay, now let's take a look. It seems to have worked. Okay, so I have a success is true. And now if I wanted to do something just like this, I could just replace the xif with success instead of errors.length. And then I could do something with a success message. And now I know that it works. And let's just go back into the backend here and go back to my forms. Here, contact. There's my successful form submission. As I said, there's a lot more that we can do here to enhance this if we want. Whether it's Alpine or some other flavor of JavaScript, go right ahead. As with anything else Statamic, it's all bring your own front end and you can do whatever you want. There are other ways that Statamic makes form handling easier with JavaScript bindings that we'll talk about in a future video. But that's going to be it for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you haven't already, sign up for my mailing list. The link is in the description. Catch you next time.